Alrighty, everyone. This is meteorologist Timmy Albertson here for a little bit of a tropical update. We have, of course, Tropical Storm Idalia now kind of making its way past the Yucatan Peninsula. We also have Hurricane Franklin out in the Atlantic Ocean, albeit Franklin is kind of out in the open waters, not really close to land at this time. And we also have Typhoon Saola all the way out in the West Pacific. So before we take a look at those, I just kind of want to bring everybody up to speed. I know a lot of times in meteorology you hear us talking about, tropical depressions, tropical storms, and then category one, two, or three hurricanes. At least in the Atlantic Ocean and the East and Central Pacific Ocean, the hurricanes, tropical systems are rated on what is known as the Saffir-Simpson scale. Now, this classifies these tropical systems based solely on their wind speed, and the lowest category is a tropical depression, which has winds of less than 38 miles an hour. Once it gets to tropical storm intensity, 39-mile-an-hour winds or greater, it will receive its name. If that tropical storm then weakens back down to a tropical depression, it'll still keep its name. But again, we don't name them until they become at least a tropical storm. With that in mind, once it gets to about 74-mile-an-hour winds, it officially becomes a hurricane, and then naturally refer to it as hurricane, whatever its name is. And it also has categories within the hurricane, category 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Basically, the category 5 is the highest category for a hurricane. It does not have an upper wind bound, so as long as it's greater than or equal to 157-mile-an-hour winds, 1 minute sustained, well, it is a category 5 hurricane. Now, it should be noted that a lot of times when you see those wind speeds on the forecast, keep in mind it's not the entire hurricane. Oftentimes, these strongest winds are going to be found at a portion that is known as the eye wall, which is the area that surrounds just the immediate part around the eye. And that's where you'll typically be seeing the strongest winds within a tropical cyclone. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and take a look right now over at Hurricane Franklin. Now, Hurricane Franklin was looking pretty good yesterday. It looks like it might be going through a process known as an eye wall exchange, where it replaces its old eye with a new one. That actually kind of sometimes allows it to develop concentric eye rings, so you see kind of two eye walls there, more or less. But all things considered, they tend to weaken a little bit during that process, but it's not unusual for especially long track tropical systems to go through quite a few eye wall changes. I think some of them can go through as many as two or three in their lifetime. So a little disorganized right now, but it is looking like it'll kind of pick back up on that organization, and it's going to kind of gradually continue to intensify. They are expecting it's going to become a major hurricane, which is a category 3 or higher, with winds maybe around 130 miles an hour. And that'll probably be as we go into sometime tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon. Right now, it's taking kind of this northwesterly track. As we go towards the day on Tuesday, it's going to start turning to the north and to the east. There's probably going to be a pretty big upper level ridge just way off towards its east. They're kind of helping to steer it off just a little bit. It is looking like it might pass close to Bermuda. Again, these forecast cones can be a little deceiving at times, and you'll learn this more as we go through hurricane season. But the cones are really just kind of where the center is expected to be. The hurricane conditions can extend well out from the center sometimes. And you can see kind of the wind field, that little yellow blob there, right where that X is, that is a tropical storm wind field, at least there. So you can see it kind of extends beyond parts of that cone. So just kind of keep that in mind, that even if the center of it, the cone is just more or less kind of where the center could be, the conditions obviously will extend a little further outward. So right now it's looking like the center will probably pass just to the north of Bermuda sometime middle of the week. But it might also be a little bit in a weakening trend by that point, but still at least at hurricane status there. Right now, again, as mentioned, the center looks like it'll stay to the north there of Bermuda, but Bermuda could still probably get at least maybe some tropical storm effects from that. We'll know more as it gets a little bit closer. All right, let's take over and look towards the new one, everyone. This is Tropical Storm Idalia. Last night during our weather chat, it was a tropical depression number 10. It is now Idalia. Got that name earlier on this morning. Right now, still a little disorganized there. You can kind of see it on the satellite imagery, but below me there, still trying to get its center defined and everything. Only about 40-mile-an-hour winds, and who knows, that might be a little bit generous. But as we go our way into the rest of the day today, it'll start getting better organized. We could see kind of a gradual intensification over about the next 24 to 36 hours. And then it'll probably begin to intensify a little bit more as it moves more into the Gulf of Mexico by the time we get towards about Tuesday evening. And it'll probably become a hurricane by that point. Right now, maximum winds are expected to be about 90 miles an hour. So that still kind of puts it in that category one puts it in the category one category. That's an interesting sentence there. But as it makes its way towards the Florida Panhandle, by the time we get towards Wednesday morning, obviously things with that could change. But that's just kind of a general look at the forecast. That an upper level trough is going to move into the eastern part of the U.S. and begin to pull it further off to the north and to the east, kind of going through maybe Georgia. But by that point, it'll obviously be noticeably weakened. As tropical systems do not do well when they get over land, they tend to weaken as they require ocean. For the most part. So with that in mind, that is a look at Tropical Storm Idalia. Like I said, maybe as this one gets closer to land, we might have a little bit of a Facebook Live watch party or something for it as we go into the early morning hours on Wednesday. Of course, we'll kind of keep an eye on that tropical system. All right, let's take a look over at the West Pacific. This is Typhoon Saola. Typhoons and cyclones and hurricanes are all the same thing, just different name based on where they are. That's just how it goes. They're all the same thing. They do have slightly different categories. The way they do it in the West Pacific, their categories kind of match up with the Saffir-Simpson scale, but they got their own thing going on. But that's all right. We got know right now it has winds of about 125 miles an hour. It has weakened a little bit there. You can see on the satellite imagery, it's kind of lost its eye, but the convection and everything is still there. Most likely, what's happening is that it's just kind of drifting. Just off the coast of the Philippines there, and because it's just been kind of drifting there the past couple of days, well, there's probably been a little bit of upwelling, that cooler water coming up, as the waves churn it a little bit. So it's probably has kind of weakened it a little bit. It had winds around 140 miles an hour yesterday evening when we were taking a look at it. Again, it's now down to about 125. Eventually, it will kind of continue this little loop over the next day or so, and then it'll basically pass to the north of the Philippines, make its way to the southern part of Taiwan as we go towards probably Tuesday during the morning hours. By that point, it'll probably be stronger again, maybe getting winds well over about 150 miles an hour for a little bit as it passes to the north of the Philippines. It'll then begin to weaken as it passes south of Taiwan, and then it'll probably make landfall somewhere over in mainland China, close to the north and to the east there of the Hong Kong area sometime as we go into maybe about the end of the work week there. Now, by that point, as mentioned, it'll probably be noticeably weaker, but we'll still probably be at least, winds around 80 miles an hour or so. So that is a look right now, folks, over at the tropics. We'll keep you guys updated on that, but as all things are considered there, no active warnings right now or anything along the Florida coast. That could probably change late tonight or sometime into the day tomorrow as that system begins to kind of move a little bit more up towards the north. Again, those warnings and watches there's an hour criteria for them, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but generally it's about 36 or 48 hours ahead of time before those watches start being issued. So again, we'll keep an eye on that, but all things considered, folks, that is a look over at the tropics right now. Thank you all very much for taking the time to join me on this quick little video here. And if you haven't already, make sure you like our Facebook page and make sure you follow us on YouTube. So hope you all have a good rest of your afternoon, everyone, and we'll see you back here for the next update.